Hey, Shelley. Hey guys,
Hey, Tom.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
There.
So how was everyone's holidays?
Good. Got a big snow towards the end of it.
I know
It
I got
still
to miss
seems to
that.
Still seems to be here.
It was nice to finally have it, but it would have been nice to have just smaller ones scattered out. Then I think we got 3 flakes today.
It snowed really hard in my office for about 20 minutes. Got white on all the ice and then quit.
At your office across the street?
I'm actually downtown Littleton.
Oh, okay. Gonna say,
Hey,
I didn't see the
speaking of
same
which-
thing.
Speaking of which, do you want to messenger me your phone number? I ought to call and talk to you about our hood.
Yeah. I will email it to you.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So it's 7 o'clock. Shelley, who all's supposed to be here? And you're on mute if you're trying to talk.
Aaron is supposed to be here as well.
Okay. So we'll give a couple more minutes.
There he is.
Perfect.
Got a call in on numbers ending in 1554. You can unmute. Oh,
Now you just scared him away.
get him away.
Okay, so how many members are we allegedly supposed to have tonight,
We
Shelley?
have everybody here.
Okay.
Yep.
And there's what, 6 of us?
6.
Okay. All right. So I will go ahead and call the Board of Adjustments and Appeals meeting to order for January 11th, 2023. Ms. Warwick, could you please take the roll?
Miss Schmitz,
I'm here.
Mr. Rieger,
Here.
Mr. Thompson,
Here.
Mr. Taylor,
Here.
Mr. Friesen,
Here too.
Chair Finn.
I am also here. So that there's 6 of us present, so 5 votes are required. I need approval of minutes from November 9th, 2022. I need a motion and a second.
I'll move to approve the minutes from November 9th, 2022.
I'll second that.
All right, perfect. We will do a voice vote. I believe. I think we're all, yep. So I think that we can, Mr. Rieger, I think you are abstaining. I don't think you were here for that night. So a voice vote to approve the minutes. We'll just, again, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There's none opposed. So the approval of the minutes passed. Approval of finding of fact for November 9th, 2022. I need a motion and a second.
We don't have one.
We don't
did not.
have, all right, that's why it's blank, but I just thought I'd hit it anyway. All right, so never mind, I don't need a motion. So we will jump into the public part of the hearing. So as I stated, there's 6 members present, therefore 5 affirmative votes are required to grant a variance or appeal. The board is authorized to grant or deny a variance by Part 3, Section 60 of the Englewood City Charter. Anyone aggrieved by a decision rendered by this board may appeal that decision to a court of record. However, such appeal must be made within 30 days of the board's decision. Any approved variance is effective at the end of the appeal period. Building permits for construction associated with an approved variance will not be issued until the appeal period is ended. Building permits must be obtained and construction begun within 180 days of the variance's effective date. Procedure for the meeting is the case will be introduced, an overview will be given by staff, applicant can present their request and reasons the variance should be granted. Proponents and opponents will given an opportunity to speak. And then if needed, staff will address the board again. So the public hearing for case number VAR2022-005, which is continued from the hearing of October 12th, 2022, is now open. The applicant is requesting a variance for an accessory dwelling unit to be located outside of the rear 35% lot placement requirement for an accessory dwelling structures in the R1C zone district, and to allow the existing structure to encroach into the 3-foot setback. I have verification, actually a verification and publication was emailed. Hopefully everyone has received that. Staff, if you could give us an overview. And you might still be muted.
If
Might
you
have
could
been
raise your
sworn
right
in.
hand, Ryan.
Shelley might have been, yeah.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that you will tell the truth in this proceeding before the Board of Adjustment and Appeals?
I do.
Please state your name.
Ryan Daniel Herring.
Thank you.
Good evening, all. And Ryan, Planner 1 here. Thanks. Glad to finally work with you all and meet. So this, as you know, probably variances will be granted when 4 criteria are met. We'll go through each one. First one, unique physical conditions, size, shape, location, topography. So our municipal code allows or requires that new ADU construction is located entirely behind the 35% lot line, or percentage of the lot. What does that really mean? That 35% down the depth of the lot, you need to have all your accessory structures located past that line. So this this parcel is typical for the zone, 50 by 125. That makes that 35% line at 43.75 feet. So how much of an encroachment are we talking about? 4 feet to the west. Percentage wise, that's 2% over, so 37 something percent over. The unique challenge is the property owner wants to come into compliance without demolishing and reconstruction. So is that something that we'll find allowable? Second criteria is the intent. Is this variance consistent with maintaining public health, safety, and welfare? So what's the point of a 35 rear lot requirement in the first place, and where does this come from? It's actually a pretty common requirement, and it's consistent with the surrounding communities. Why is it so common? Because it helps maintain a certain sense of human scale. It makes it very apparent that the additional dwelling unit is subordinate to its principal structure. It's not an separate address structure, or not meant to be. It also helps, maintain the image of a low density, things like that. So if these are things that are the intent of the code in your interpretation, then we wonder if this 4 feet encroachment is, really encroaching much, against our intent of maintaining health, safety, and welfare, setbacks for fire, safety, etc., maintaining human scale. Third, will this variance permanently impair the use and development of surrounding conforming properties? No, I don't imagine how. That's the only note that we actually have, is that this is still maintaining residential use. They're moving, adding new construction that will be a principal structure, as people are entitled to in a single-family residential or single-unit residential neighborhood. So we don't see how this imposes difficulties on surrounding lots. Fourth criterion is a variance is not self-imposed difficulty or hardship. This was something that was constructed before the current owner, Mr. Baxter, bought this property. It's also the intent, maybe harken back to the intent, is that this rule is not meant to place a burden, a financial burden on owners to have to go through a very labor-intensive process of moving a building back. And if you want to talk about new hardships to neighbors too, that kind of project, is a temporary nuisance that people might comment on as well. Those are the main points that we'd like to make on each criterion. What's the next step? Is that open to questions? Shelley, I defer to you.
Yeah, so we questions for staff from the board. And real quick, I want to make sure I understand this. So we're asking for a 4-foot variance into the 35% for the ADU. And then also on the table is a 3-foot side setback variance as well.
You're right. I actually didn't address that directly at all. That is, that is true. That is a violation or an encroachment that's beyond what is allowed for an ADU or principal structure or accessory or otherwise. But the same underlying argument, I think, applies to each criterion without really breaking it down, meaning that health, safety, and welfare is not really impaired very much. It's not it's not close to the plan structure. It's actually 14.2 feet away from the plan structure and the adjacent properties. It's not, within a unreasonable distance to the adjacent property.
Not to cut you off, Mr. Herring, but rather than the analysis, I think we need initially, like, why the side setback variance? Is there an existing structure, or what's the reason?
This is, so the plan is that they're living there. What is the principal structure now will become the ADU. What is being built, they will move into and live in out as their primary structure. And what they are in now, what is existing, will become the ADU. It's just a redesignation if you think about it. Now, whether you designate that existing property as principal or accessory, that side setback is too close.
So
What
the
is
exist,
that?
yep.
What
Go
is
ahead.
that side setback? My drawing didn't print here that I got home with me anyway. So what is the side setback currently?
Would need 5.
Say again the word.
That as a principal structure, a side setback in R1C would need 5, I believe.
Yeah, no, I understand on our ADU. What I want to know is it's over the 3-foot side setback. How much does it encroach on the side setback?
Actually, let me that actually might come down to rereading. Hang on. Sorry, let me actually take a moment and actually check that to be sure.
As the homeowner, do you want me to comment on
No,
anything?
no, Mr. Baker, we'll get to you next. And if
Okay.
you have that information, you can give it at that time, but we'll have to have you sworn in and that'll be the next step.
I mean, we could circle back to it later if he
Yep.
wants to look it up.
Yeah, and
Sorry. And
Yep.
also let me talk to, another planner offline because yeah, it wasn't written explicitly in the write-up either. So yeah, sorry about that, missing that detail, but I don't want to just shout it out what I think it is. Let me actually get it.
and then I think there was another question from the board. Yep, Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, so the into the 3-foot setback, is it just that 6 feet that we can see on the drawing on the existing structure?
Sorry, didn't follow. What are we looking for?
The intrusion into the side setback, is it just 6 feet in length?
Oh, it would be that lip that you mean?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, that protrusion.
And then I have a question for staff. I know that at times there's administrative adjustments that can be made. Is there anything like that for ADUs?
Administrative-
If you guys want to swear me in, I can speak to some of these questions.
Sure.
I'm not proud.
Shelley, can we, oh, you're on mute, Shelley.
I'm gonna stay off mute. Eric, do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that you will tell the truth in this proceeding before the Board of Adjustment and Appeals?
I do.
State your name, please.
Eric Sampson, Planner 2 with City of Englewood. So to go to Randall's question, the existing structure is currently encroaching. It's about 2 feet from the side property line. So that is the kind of second part of that variance request, is that 2 feet. And then to Tom, what was your question again?
So I know that in some cases, there's administrative adjustments that can be made if things are within percentages. I didn't know if there was anything like that for ADUs.
We don't have anything in terms of an administrative for any sort of setbacks.
Okay.
Those really only apply to lot width or lot size when it comes to subdivision requests.
Okay. And I'm guessing, and this is purely a guess, that it appears there's a fence line, an existing fence line, and that might have been the assumed property line at one point, and it looks like the setback from that fence line to the existing 1-story frame is probably about 5 feet, and that's maybe where originally they thought they were within the correct setback.
Yeah, and I think even when the original structure was built as a single family residence, that was prior to any sort of setback regulations that we would have code at the time.
Okay.
So it was basically at that point, you could put it pretty much wherever you wanted on the property. And so that's like, in a situation like this, staff usually recommends approval of that, since it wasn't the property owner who had placed the structure in the setback at that time. If it had been somebody who had just put up the structure like a year ago with like complete disregard to the zoning regs, then we would maybe have a different recommendation on that. But yeah, since the property owner didn't put the structure there, we pretty much identify that as a non-self-imposed hardship.
All right. Does the board have any other questions for either staff member or I guess collectively staffs at this point?
Yeah.
All right. So I think staffs, we are currently done with you. We might circle back. If the applicant could come forward to testify in the case, and please state your name and address to the secretary who will administer the oath.
Perfect. My name is Sam Baxter, homeowner of 388 South Bannock Street in Inglewood.
Okay, if you raise your right hand, I'll swear you in. Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that you will tell the truth in this proceeding before the Board of Adjustment and Appeals?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, and Mr. Baxter, so we have the packet of material that was provided to us.
Okay.
So also, so we kind of understand, I think, what you're asking for. Is there anything you'd like to add outside of it or additionally?
No, I think that that piece of the side setback specifically, if you look at like the structure itself, it probably is pretty close to 5. My guess is in the past, they did like an addition for a rear entry exit way, and that is what protrudes closer to the sideline or to the side. So if you see that, I think Mr. Taylor might have mentioned that's 6 feet in the back right. So that would be southeast point. That's when it encroaches on that 5 feet, more specifically there. So it is only a portion of the house that is that the side setback. And then, for the front variance of the 35%, I think Ryan did a good job of explaining that. So nothing more on that. It's also home from 1933. It's a pretty cool little house, and it was fun to update the inside. So, yeah.
I'm a little depressed you didn't bring pictures of the remodel of the 1933 house.
Well, I can tell you a cool story. When I was taking some of the drywall out, there was no insulation. It was newspaper. And the newspaper was the Denver Post from 1929.
Oh, nice.
Cool to read that. None of it stayed intact where I could keep it, but it was cool to read through that.
So the site plan we're looking at, so there's an existing concrete, I'm guessing that's an existing concrete pad or porch. What is
Yes.
that?
Just on the, are you talking about on the front of the current?
The front of the 1-story frame, the 1933 house, yeah.
I think it's just it's acting as a walkway, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah. There was a covered porch or something of that nature that we ended up taking out. You can see in the attached photo that I provided today with the sign in front. You can kind of see it, but I think that was originally a porch that we ripped out, and the concrete remained.
Okay. Board, any questions for Mr. Baxter? All right, Mr. Baxter, I believe we're done with you for the time being as well. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Do we have, Shelley, do you know if we have any people that would like to speak in favor or opposition of this request?
We do not.
Okay. Staff, any additional comments? And does the board have any additional questions for staff?
Nothing to add from me.
All right. I will now close the public hearing. Someone needs to make a motion in a second, and I don't know if we want to break up the 2 variances or if we want to combine the 2 variances into one motion.
I'll just give it a shot and see what happens.
I like it. Thank you.
All right, I move that we approve a variance for an accessory dwelling unit to be located outside of the rear 35% lot placement requirement for accessory dwelling structures in the R1C zone district, and and a variance to allow the existing structure to encroach into the 3-foot side setback. This is a variance to section 16-5-4.c.7.i sub 5 and table 16-6-1.2 of the Englewood Municipal Code.
I have a question before we second that. Do we want to amend that to include how much that we are gonna be located inside the 35%? Because I don't think that's written in.
Yeah.
If Eric wants to stop me, but as the junior guy, but I
Hold on, Yep, I'm sorry, staff.
We may come
Uh,
back to you.
Yeah, we might come back to you. Hold on.
It is okay, outside of the rear 35%. So we want to define that further.
So I think we were talking about allowable of 4 feet within the 35%.
It was approximate on the staff's notes.
Do we want to go back and nail this thing down before we make a motion if it's not? I would hate for it to be 4.2.
Well,
Yeah.
we can just make it up to 5 feet, whatever it is.
I'm just not sure how to phrase it. Up to 5 feet into the 35% area. Help me.
Yeah, so real quick, we'll do a voice vote. So let's reopen the public meeting and then we'll ask staff if they have any advice. Voice vote, all those in, I need a motion to do this, or can I just?
In here the second.
Need a second.
All right. So voice vote to reopen the public meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No one's opposed. So the public hearing is now reopened. And we'd like to revisit with staff on suggestions of what we're looking for to get a variance for the 4 foot or 5 foot into the 35-foot. lot.
I'll go ahead and hop in here a second.
Yep.
So what I was trying to do, and I'm not finding it right off the bat, was looking for, you had heard a similar variance case about a year ago for Brenda Hubka. And it was a very similar request. And I was going to look at the findings of fact to see what the language that you guys had used at that time, but I'm not seeing it, or I'm not finding it right away. Some of your options are to basically acknowledge the location of the existing structure and that location of the structure outside of the 35% rear setback. That would also count for the side setback encroachment as well. Or you can do something more specifically, say like if you want the exact measurement, you could go that route as well. Or you could do a general type of, like not more than 5 feet outside of the 35% requirement or something like that.
Chairman Finn,
Yes.
what about a not to exceed?
Oh, not to exceed.
I kind of like existing structure because that's our justification anyway.
All right. So do you think you could appropriately phrase that?
Yeah, but I'm trying. Okay.
I'm just worried about that for, if that structure, anything were to happen to it, we'd be right back. I'm worried a little bit about that phrasing.
I have a suggestion for the phrasing then. You're on the right track stating it positively, but we don't have to necessarily give a specific number. If you say something like motion to grant variance to allow ADU location beyond 35% lot requirement as built. That way you don't have to say specific number, but it also doesn't imply, it directly means that if they were to do an expansion, anything that moves that footprint of the building, that triggers non-compliance because it's no longer as built. But it also doesn't obstruct them to do interior work and get our, and then run afoul of your rule. My suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, I like the footprint thing. I'm a little worried about as built because I'm fine with replacing existing structure with an identical footprint structure. And I wonder if as built implies that that can't happen.
I think you're right. Yes. Good concern.
So would we want to? So how many, so if we're reducing the 35%, we could reduce that or increase that, right? We would want to increase it. And I think you said, I think staff earlier mentioned it was about 2%. So would be, so to handle the placement, we could grant a variance that the accessory dwelling unit be located outside of the rear 38%.
Ooh.
That would take care of your fractional concern. Absolutely.
And then that would take care of that for the accessory dwelling structure and then encroach on the 3-foot side setback.
Say that again, Tom. It sounded.
So I think what we would say is the variance for an accessory dwelling unit to be located outside of the rear 38% lot
Wouldn't that
placement.
be the whole front of the lot outside the rear 38%?
Yeah.
We'd want it to be within.
Within 30.
Within,
rear 38, I think would be the phrase.
yep, within, yep.
Okay, I think the reason 35 is there is to reference the current requirement,
Yeah.
right?
So I think inside, so change outside to inside.
I want to be a little careful here because I'm looking at that site plan and doing math. And that thing skews a little bit. It's gonna be real close to that 38%.
39%.
Yeah.
How about, okay, if we're doing 39, variance for an ADU to be located outside of the rear 35% of lot placement requirement, not to exceed the 39% of the rear lot. Help me, anyone.
You're doing well.
Okay.
I have something if let me start my video here. Okay, so this is the recommended language from the Brenda Hubka case. I found that.
Oh, good.
And in that was the wording, and it was really general. It was like for an accessory dwelling unit to be located outside of the rear 35% lot placement requirement for accessory dwelling structures in the MUR3B zone district.
I can't believe we let that go through.
And then, the structure will be located within the rear 42% of the property.
Oh,
That's, oh, there we go. Yeah.
say that again, that sentence. The structure will be located?
Within the rear, and that one was the rear 42% of the property. And this one, I think you can go 40 and be safe.
I'm gonna say the structure may be located, I don't know, legally.
Shall be.
Shall be, can be. What was the verb?
Located within.
Okay, say the sentence again, Eric, if you could.
Yeah, okay, so it's accessory dwelling unit to be located outside of the rear 35% lot placement requirement for accessory dwelling structures in the, and that was for Brenda's case, she was in the MUR3B zone district, but I believe this is an R1C zone district.
Yeah.
And then The follow-up to that was the structure will be located within the rear 42% of the property.
Okay. 39% of the property. Okay, and we can talk about this when we get back into discussion phase, but I think that would eliminate the need to have that specific part about the 3-foot side setback.
No, I think we would still need a 3-foot side setback.
Oh. Well, it's just saying it can encroach into. Isn't the percentage limitation?
That's the front to back, and then there's a side setback issue as well.
All right. So are we limiting the side setback at all? Or
The variance is asking for the structure to encroach 3 foot into the 5-foot side setback,
okay.
which would be the second part of I think the second part of the request could serve as the motion.
That actually doesn't cover it because they were 1.4 feet from the property line
So we would need a 4-foot
encroachment.
encroachment,
Into the 5-foot side
Yes.
setback.
correct?
Correct me, Eric, I think we're 3 feet on ADUs though.
Yeah, it does say
Yes,
3
that
foot in
is-
the proposed.
That is correct, though. Okay, so I can see where the mix-up could have been, because for any sort of residential structure, the setback is 5 feet. For any sort of accessory dwelling unit structure, the setback is 3.
So we're encroaching 2 feet into the required 3-foot side setback.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
I feel good.
okay. So thank you, staff, for your help to clarify the request. I will now close the public hearing again. So I need a motion and a second for discussion.
Oh, do you want me to make the motion? Oh, okay. All right. I move that we approve a variance for an accessory dwelling unit to be located outside of the rear 35% lot placement requirement for accessory dwelling structures in the R1C zone district. And a variance to allow the existing structure to encroach 2 feet into the 3-foot side setback, period. The structure will be located within the rear 39% of the property. This is a variance to section 16-5-4.c.7. sub 5 and table 16-6-1.2 of the Inglewood Municipal Code.
Do I have a
Second.
second? All right. Board discussion. By the way, very nice job with the motion. What do we think?
I thought we did the hard part. No. It's minimal. It's unique enough. There's an existing structure. This seems to be the sort of thing we do.
Everything new that's being proposed on the site plan is within the requirements. So there's no new building that would be happening.
I agree with Mr. Taylor.
Yeah,
Seems real straightforward to me.
yeah, I agree. And I applaud the applicant for, I like that rather than tearing down the house and building a new ADU. I think that this makes all the sense and it's within the intent. Anything else, or should we just vote? All right, let's vote. Ms. Warwick.
I need a second on that.
Oh,
Maybe-
a second on, oh,
I seconded
Randy
it.
seconded the
Okay,
motion.
Randy, okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna call on you, Miss Schmitz.
Oh, I am voting yes. The first criterion is met. There's unique physical conditions because there's an existing structure that are peculiar to the land. Second criterion is met. It's consistent with the intent of the zone district. It's very minimal and doesn't change any of the general character of that zone district. Third criterion is met. It will not permanently impair the use or development of adjacent conforming properties. Again, it's minimal change to existing setbacks. And the fourth criterion is met. This is not something that was created by the current owner. It's existed for a long time.
Mr. Rieger,
I voted yes for the following, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Thompson,
I vote yes for the reasons stated.
Mr. Taylor,
I vote yes for the reasons stated.
Mr. Friesen,
Also vote yes for the reasons stated.
Chair Finn.
I also vote yes for the reasons stated.
Motion passed 6-0.
Awesome. So that ends the first case, which is VAR. Oh golly. VAR 2022-005. Thank you, Mr. Baxter, for appearing. The second case, public hearing for case number VAR 2022-007 for Ken and Whitney Cobb at 3350 Emerson Street is now open. They're requesting a renewal of the primary residency waiver for a short-form rental in the R1C zone district. I have, I don't think, did we have to do verification for this one? Did we get that? I need to open that up.
As in the same packet.
Perfect, yep. I don't remember that, but I will verify it. Staff, if you could please give us an overview.
Sure.
I think you'll need to be sworn in since it's a new case.
Oh, okay.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that you will tell the truth in this proceeding before the Board of Adjustment and Appeals?
I do.
Please state your name.
Eric Sampson, Planner 2 at the City of Inglewood. All right, so the Board of Adjustment had approved the request, Ms. Cobb's request for the short-term rental primary residency waiver about a year ago. And BOA had approved that for a one-year time period. And so they're wishing to extend that. The criteria that we have for approval on primary residency requirement waivers are a little bit different than the regular Board of Adjustment criteria. So I'll just run through those real quick. One is that special circumstances or conditions peculiar to specific STR or property owner exists that do not apply generally to all STR businesses or enterprises. And considering that the situation with the applicant has not changed, that they are still working with their son who has autism, and we had established that that had been a special circumstance. The second criteria was that the requested waiver from regulations will not weaken the general purpose of this chapter, Title V. And as evidenced over the past year, staff has not received any complaints or any sort of issues with the STR being operated as it is. So there is absolutely no evidence, and staff does not feel that the regulations will not be weakened by the continuing of the primary residency waiver. And finally, the property owner will provide alternative effective means of assuring the goals of the regulations sought to be waived. And again, just from the evidence over the past year, everything has, as far as we can tell, been operating wonderfully. And that considering that the property owner lives in Inglewood and within a mile of the subject property, and I even believe there's a co-host living on site, staff does not have any concerns about that. And with that said, staff would recommend approval of the renewal of the primary residency waiver. And also, I thought it might be pertinent to bring up if maybe for a period longer than a year, but I will leave that up to you.
Thank you, Mr. Sampson. Quick note, I'm an idiot. It was attached to the email, so we do have verification of the publication and posting. Do we have any questions for staff at this time?
One, and you were stating now, Eric, that it was 1 year in the documents that we were providing. We did it in 2020, it was 2 years. And that's what your comments say on all the criterion as well.
Oh, yeah. Oops, sorry. That was my bad. For some reason, I was thinking it was 1 year.
Is there a maximum time that we can grant this waiver?
No, there is nothing in the code that restricts the time for a waiver to allowed to be granted.
Board, any other questions for staff at this point? All right, if the applicant could please come forward to testify in the case, please state your name and address to the secretary who will administer the oath.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that you will tell the truth in this proceeding before the Board of Adjustment and Appeals?
I, Whitney Cobb, do so, yes.
Thank you.
Hi, Ms. Cobb, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
So we got your packet with everything in it. I remember this case and I can't believe it was 2 years ago. Is there anything you would like to add to this, what you've given to the board at this point?
Not really. I guess I would just say that we are still actively pursuing our original goal, which was for Julian, our son Julian, to be able to live in this home with a care provider and down the road a roommate. And really it's been the pandemic that's turned that upside down. Staffing has been murder for somebody, a high needs individual like Julian. And so there's two pieces. So one is helping him emotionally get used to and like the home. He's very attached to his own home. That's moving along well, but we also have to have the staffing as well as kind of a financial model. So this is kind of, keeping us afloat in terms of being able to pay the mortgage without Ken and I having to do too much out of pocket. And I just want you to know that we're still working on that. That hasn't changed, that goal of being able to have this be Julian's home with us down the street and not needing a short-term rental. But right now we're still in some limbo for a variety of reasons. So.
Board, any questions for Ms. Cobb? I have a question for you. So do you feel like another 2-year waiver is appropriate? Would that kind of reset, in essence, get us back, not exactly before COVID, but possibly?
All right, I hope so. I hope so. It's there are a lot of moving parts, but I hope so, yes.
Any questions for Ms. Cobb from the board? All right. Thank you, Ms. Cobb. Shelley, do you know if there's any people present to speak in favor or in opposition of this request?
There is not.
All right, thank you. Staff, any additional comments?
Nope.
All right.
I have a question.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, awesome.
I guess it was something that occurred to me. If ownership or anything were to change in the future, what would happen to the waiver? Would it go away? I'm just trying to gauge.
Yeah, so what would happen,
extend
the STR permit itself would become void with a transfer of ownership. So, and thusly the waiver would follow that.
Thanks.
Any other questions for staff? All right. So the public hearing is now closed. What has come to be the hardest point of this evening is I need a motion and a second to have discussion.
I want to say that I've been married to an engineer too.
I'm sorry, Ms. Cobb. Yep, I'm sorry. We've closed the public hearing. At first, I thought you were going to make a motion and I got really excited, but we can't. We've closed the public hearing. So I do need a motion and a second from a board member.
I move to renew the waiver from the requirement that a short-term rental be owner occupied for the property within the R1C zone district. This waiver was originally approved for 2 years, beginning in 2020. This is a waiver to section 5-31-4.B.2 of the Englewood Municipal Code.
I second.
All right. I have a question,
Me too.
or do we need to amend it to say how long we're granting the waiver for?
I'll take a friendly
Yes.
amendment. Yeah.
All right, I need a friendly amendment, and I think so a friendly amendment, I need a motion and a second, I think, for that as well.
Motion to change it to include a time limit.
For an additional 2 years. So
Perfect.
so it would read that a renewal for a period of 2 years
Correct.
of the
Is there a
waiver from the requirement.
Yep.
Okay.
Is there a second?
If Annie moved it, I second it.
Okay.
Whatever.
Well, I think there's a second, Thompson, for the amendment, and
The
then for the amendment, and now we need to do a voice vote for the amendment. All those in favor of accepting the amendment as amended to include the 2 years, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so that passes. I don't get paid enough to keep up with all this parliamentary. All right, discussion of this. What do we think?
It makes me feel fine to go out 2 years again, because, you know, if circumstances were to change, it's not like the waiver could be taken advantage of. So going out another 2 years, the circumstances haven't changed. The end goal is still the same, that, you know, there would no longer be a short-term rental here with that long-term goal of that independence. So I don't see anything that's changed from our original decision.
Yeah, I agree. I think that COVID has kind of reset a lot of things, and this to me is kind of a extension of that.
It's so hard to put a timetable on anything like this, that I think 2 years feels good. Like just double check where
Yep.
circumstances are.
I agree. Any other discussion on this?
Well, I'll just second that too, as far as Chairman Finn, what you said, 2 years, with the last 2 years, it has gone by very quickly. I think, again, with Mr. Taylor stating another 2 years to kind of reset expectations and get closer to that goal.
All right.
And I appreciate that, you know, they're doing a good job of following the regulations and taking care of the place and being good neighbors. So that plays into it as well.
Absolutely.
That is nice. Additional
Yes.
evidence we didn't have last time is that there's still no complaint. So
Yeah. And I would like to commend staff on making sure that they pointed that out when they presented that's a nice piece of information to have. All right. If there's no further discussion, Ms. Warwick, if you could vote, take the vote.
Mr. Taylor,
I voted yes. The first criterion is met, that special circumstances do exist related to the property owner of the short-term rental, that it is owned by the parents who have a developmentally disabled son, and they're working towards an independent relationship there that would no longer need a short-term rental, but this is enabling an interim solution. The second criterion is met, that it won't weaken the purposes. It's not solely used as a short-term rental, and it hasn't weakened any of the other pieces that are in the intent of that regulation. The third criterion is met as evidenced by this period of time for the initial waiver, that there have been no complaints, that their alternate means of being nearby and being responsible for the property have continued to allow this zone district to operate with a short-term rental.
Miss sorry, Miss Schmitz,
I vote yes for the reasons stated.
Mr. Rieger,
Voted yes for the reasons.
Mr. Thompson,
I vote yes for the reasons stated.
Mr. Friesen,
Well, yes, for the reasons stated.
and Chair Finn.
I also vote yes for the reasons stated.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, so that closes case VAR 2022-007. Staff's choice. First of all, Ms. Herring, Mr. Herring, thank you so much for joining us. I'm glad that we got you in the mix tonight. And you're on mute. Oh,
Thanks for having me.
perfect. Sure. So board, do y'all have anything coming up for us?
No variance cases.
No. All right. Look at that.
There's probably going to be, there's one on my radar of one that's going to potentially come in the next couple of weeks, and that's about a carport encroaching into the side setback.
No fence issue. So I guess we'll take the carport. Attorney's choice.
I don't have anything at this time, but thank you.
All right, board members' choice. Anything from the board? All right, nothing from the board. Let's adjourn. Thank you again, everyone, for your time tonight. The board members, again, I appreciate it. I'll see if I can get us a raise on this. I really appreciate your time and as always, the conversation, the discussion that I think helps the case. That's it. We'll help. Maybe we'll see everyone next month.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Have a great evening.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.